Hello, welcome. My name is Chloe. Thanks for joining today. I'm in a new location. I'm visiting the Red City at the moment. I did want to, still share a little bit about the full moon, the aftermath, these cycles we experience, of course. Um, Especially with the Cardinal Grand Cross, we tend to feel them, leading up to the full moon and in the few days after as well. So I just wanted to check in and see how everyone's feeling. I have some reflections I would love to share. So thank you for joining today. I'm going to share a little bit about the astrology of the super full moon in Aries in October 17th, 2024. And I'm working as well with some tarot cards for you this Libra season. One of my decks is the Pre-Raphaelite tarot. So this one is, beautiful, like Libran, Venusian artwork. I am traveling, so I just have a few decks with me, and I figured this one would be, the best to work with. Just can't get enough beauty in my life these days. Really wanting to focus on that sort of thing. Um, Sorry, it's very windy here. I'm on the terrace, and there's these like big beautiful white curtains blowing. So I haven't been watching the news because I'm traveling, and I haven't seen anyone else's full moon forecast or takes on the current cosmic energy. I typically don't like to follow a lot of astrologers or read a lot of astrologies because I do like to, obviously, um, avoid being distracted or like, getting in my head when it comes to like my own personal interpretations of things. Like, I know what I know, I know what I can see, I know what I feel. And there is a lot of focus on the negative, which is interesting, like for me to say, as someone who identifies more so as a shadow worker than a light worker, that I am the one coming on to say we need to focus on the light and have the courage to hope for, for a better way of life, for a better future. Um, just setting up, like going on to YouTube to like add in this video, like everything on my feed, the thumbnails like terror, full moon terror, full moon terror. Um, and I mean, like it's true, obviously, the square with Pluto, um, the square with Mars. um, the Chiron and moon being in conjunction in Aries. But the moon conjuncts Aries every single month, right? Chiron has been in Aries for years, and the moon travels around the zodiac every month. So the moon and Chiron is conjunct every single month. When the moon is around 20, 21, 22 degrees Aries. So we do experience this energy on the regular. Of course, that it is a full moon, that energy is much more intense. Of course. Um, but let's not let that get to us, right? Like I'm going to speak on the harsher aspects, the more challenging aspects of the full moon, but I want to make sure that we understand, the more positive, harmonious, easeful aspects as well, because there is a trine as well too. We have Mars trining Neptune, trining Venus, a water trine. Although, like the fire and water thing, or sorry, the cardinal and water thing, yeah, like it is a bit, intense in itself, that everyone is deeply feeling. But these are meant to aid us and support us as well too. Like every time I do a forecast, every full moon, there's always the challenging aspects as well as the easeful aspects, right? So it's never like all bad or all good, like just like life, right? Like we are always facing challenges. There's always invitations to grow and evolve and heal, and there are always celestial energies that are supporting us as well too, right? When I look at the chart, yeah, not gonna lie, of course, seeing the cardinal the grand cross the cardinal grand cross, yeah, like Mars moon conjunct Chiron, along with the sun and Pluto, like yeah, those are major players. And technically, Mars being like the god of war and Pluto being lord of the underworld, as opposed to like Venus and Jupiter, which have more like benefic tones to them or benefic vibes, but I don't like to say Jupiter is good and Mars is bad, right? Like that's not really accurate. That would be too simple. We were at an event last night and like I don't know what it looked like wherever you are, but the moon was huge. Like the supermoon was so big and so orange, and just like saw her rising up like with the palm trees. And it's like fire pits, and like when we arrived, they had like yeah, like indigenous dancers and like indigenous music. So it was like very evocative of the fire element and also of like the cardinal energy as well too, that intensity. So feeling that passion and that drive, and that like invigoration, like that's not negative. It doesn't have to play out negatively. Now, like I said, I haven't like read the news or watched the news because I am just like really trying to enjoy my time here and not stress out. So like I'm not sure like what disasters are unfolding type of thing. Like, yes, I'm choosing to be ignorant to that in this moment because there's only so many inputs that I can process and I can tolerate, at the moment. And being in North Africa, there's like enough sensory overload for me, and there is enough to process for me personally. So I'm not going to yeah, try to tie in too much with like the world events in this forecast. But I think when we get to the tarot cards, you'll see like this is very much repeating themes of like many cycles are ending, many cycles are beginning, still being invited to shed more. There's too much like, talk about change and thought about change without people actually like taking the action, even though so many of us are like on the same page and have, similar values and beliefs and stuff. We just love to hold on to the old ways of being and the old ways of doing. And this, of course, is on the individual level, and it's also on the collective level and society, right? So thinking about like the full moon conjunct Chiron in Aries, like the full moon is this release and rebirth of self, of identity, right? So regardless of what house you have it in, which of course I'll get to when I do the rising sign horoscopes, yeah, regardless of where you're experiencing that personally, wherever, Aries falls in your chart. For me, it's my ninth house, as a Leo rising, but on the full moon chart, I think it falls in the eighth house, like of death and rebirth. So that's really interesting to think about how, yeah, that's going to be something that we're all experiencing. Let me just see if I can do something about these drapes here. Bear with me. Okay, that's better. Sorry, I was like getting distracted, but yeah, this is actually the best place for me to record right now. We're in like, there's like the two buildings, like, or the two sections of the resort, the sun and the moon, and we're like on the moon side, which is like much more chill. There's like the party pool, is adjacent, but there's been like think there was like a wedding a couple days ago, so this like huge family checked in. So now like the quiet pool, there's like lots of like children laughing and playing and splashing and stuff. So it has been very quiet here, but that has yeah since evolved into like a little bit of a noisier environment. Okay, so let me get into the cards. I did want to make this very quick and concise for you. Let me just see. Yeah, let me share the cards and then if there's anything else that comes up for me with the astrology, I'll just weave that in. But yeah, generally speaking, very intense energy. The cardinal energy is fast moving, rapid expansion. You have, of course, the like upgrades or transformation we're being called to into when it comes to like our own identity, what we how we identify who we identify as, and then always this like invitation for progress in and growth and healing, evolution in our own lives and in the places that we occupy, right? So how do I want to do this? Okay, so like I said, I pulled a few cards. I was just like, yeah, I was checking out the chart earlier, looking at the different aspects, and decided to, yeah, to pull cards for like each of the aspects that I wanted to, to share about. Um, so the full moon in Aries is in a conjunction with Chiron. As we know, there is a cardinal grand cross. The moon and Chiron are occupying one of the corners of that. So yeah, Chiron conjunct moon in Aries in a square to Cancer Mars, in a square to the Sun in Libra, in a square to um, Pluto and Capricorn, in a square to the moon and Chiron conjunction. So we have these like the square. And when you have like the four square, that is a grand cross because you have like the multiple opposites going on as well too. Anytime there's a full moon, it is opposite the sun, of course, as you know, sun in Libra, 24 degrees, moon in Aries, 24 degrees. But then we have yeah, Mars in Cancer at 22 degrees, Pluto in Capricorn at 29 degrees. So that makes the cardinal cross. Um, so for the Moon conjunct Chiron specifically, the card I pulled for us, and as I said, I'm working with the pre-Raphaelite tarot, so it's like beautiful, artistic, like European style artwork. So this card is Judgment, which of course is like one of my favorites. Oh no, I apologize. This one is Temperance. It's very similar to the Judgment card in this deck. I apologize. So yeah, this makes me think, of course, about like, yeah, you have Temperance as the alchemist, like the blending of like two different things to create a secret third thing. Not this nor that, but a secret third thing. So it really makes me think of yeah, compromise and not acting like just out of your mind or just out of your emotions. Like there has to be some sort of um equilibrium found or consideration before taking this like swift action in the realm of like your identity rebirth. So I'm always going to like, everyone's always going to be like full moon, release what doesn't serve. And that's true. But like in this case, when you think about what you're calling in and what you're letting go, really making sure that you're not rushing and that it is something that's truly in alignment because yes, this is the first, full moon conjunct Chiron and Aries or whatever, like for a while. Um, but we've been in these cycles of transformation too. So if like you have an idea or like something comes to you that doesn't feel like a long-term vision or something you've been working through for a while, just consider that that might be fleeting. Like there is this like intensity and urgency that that comes with this full moon, but the changes that we're being invited to take and like step into our new identity, step into our calling, these aren't going to be things that we like just thought of. And like, yeah, people are getting like new insight, new downloads all the time, but this is saying like, that your identity that you're growing into is something you've already been thinking about. That it's not going to be a whole new way of life immediately. Like you had an awareness of these changes. You will continue to consider them. So if you just got this brand new idea, it's like it needs some time, right? Like you don't want to be rushing. And like, yeah, it's so interesting to like have that perspective because at some point, yeah, you do need to shed, right? You do need to grow. But it should be in the realm or considering themes that you were already working with. Um, it's not brand new insight. Um, Traditionally, when people would work with visions and divine insight, it would be over very, very long periods of time. Of course, in this era, we have like, we have to survive in capitalism. So there's we need to consider like, is this offering for other people? Like, is this, a service that I'm going to sell, that I am a visionary, that I receive, psychic guidance. I want to help other people, right? Like that's valid too. But everyone has a certain level of intuition. And historically, traditionally, the people who were, the healers in the community weren't, getting new visions every day. Um, they would receive the insight through the dream, through scrying, like gazing in the flames of the sacred fire, looking, scrying in the bowl of water or like the crystal ball, and they'd work with that. They'd work with that vision for days, weeks, months, even years. Um, we have this thing in modern times with our attention span, with how things are set up, that it's like, well, I could get a new vision every day. So like, yeah, talking about this, I'm not, accusing anyone of doing anything. I understand that, we need to live in the era that we live in. We chose to come in at this time, but we're also, it can be helpful to consider more traditional ways of doing things and how our ancestors would have worked with visions. That it's not like, okay, I'm going to pull some cards on this, think about it. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to pull another card. That old thing is gone. Like it's really about long-term, sustainable, and small steps over time. Um, so I think, yeah, to keep this simple, yes, now is the time to change and evolve if that's what you're feeling called to, but it's not coming out of nowhere. It feels like it's coming out of nowhere. If it feels like it's coming out of nowhere, then that's not necessarily the change you're invited to step into. It should be something that yeah, that has been in your awareness for a while, right? Um, okay. So the sextile with Jupiter, right? Um, when we look at the Aries full moon in conjunction with the Chiron, that is making a harmonious aspect to Jupiter in Gemini. Okay. Um, I think that sextiles are great because like they don't have the ease of trines. It requires like a little bit of effort, but there's like so much potential. So like sextiles are like among my favorite aspects, I would say. So we do have that light shining upon the full moon Chiron conjunction, right? Um, but at the same time, like Jupiter just amplifies. So, I want to give the balance of like that could be something positive, but I already said like Jupiter's not always positive. It's gonna like expand the feelings of the moon Chiron conjunction. So that's why I'm like, just be careful. Like just synthesize um what you're feeling now with like what you've already known and try to yeah, keep working with the same energy rather than bringing in new things. It is also admittedly like a dangerous aspect. Like I said, I didn't watch the news about this or anything, but the that square and then like yeah, Jupiter engaging with the moon and Chiron, amplifying that energy. So to me, intuitively, it comes across for like the people who are going to watch this video, um, that it is going to be, amplifying that strong desire for the ego death or the rebirth of aspects of your identity. So the urgency of the cardinal energy, and then you have the identity, and then that amplification of Jupiter, like just, I mean, like take it easy. Just be careful out there, right? Um, okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the grand water trine now between Venus, Neptune, and is it Mars? Let me just check my chart here. Okay, yeah. So because of the degrees, I wouldn't necessarily like, well, okay. So you have Venus at 29 degrees Scorpio, you have Mars at 22 degrees Cancer, so that's already a 7-degree orb. But then you kind of have Neptune splitting the difference at 27 degrees, right? So Neptune and Venus are definitely, that's definitely a tight orb between those planets in Pisces and in Scorpio. And then it's a 5-degree orb between Mars and Neptune, Mars being in Cancer, Neptune being in Pisces. So the orbit is a bit wide to call it a grand water trine. Um, but yeah, like you definitely have Neptune kind of splitting the difference there. So all three of those are in aspect: Neptune, Venus, Mars in Pisces, Cancer, um, and Scorpio. So of course, like deep feeling, deep processing, very emotional time. We know this about water signs. But the card that I pulled for this aspect is the Ten of Pentacles. So this really in this, there's of course there's always multiple meanings to every tarot card, but in this case, what I'm getting for this context and this time and place is very much that we have like our ancestral support coming in. This is very much like a card that has to do with generational healing, ancestor healing. And of course, we're a few days out from Scorpio season, which is very much a time when many of us will be connecting with our ancestors. So, how to read that positively? It could be like heightened intuition, strong intuition, desire and calling to connect in with our beloved dead, that they are close, that the veil is getting thinner, and they are there to support us, they're watching over us, they are guiding us. So if you feel called to connect in, of course we're always connected, but this is just the ancestors cheering us on as they always are, but wanting to really make themselves known during this full moon. So I think that's a really nice way to look at that support. Um, yeah, there's like a couple other cards I pulled for this trine. I do have like the death card, which is, a beautiful interpretation in this deck. This is one of my favorite death cards ever. It is gorgeous. And then I also have the Eight of Pentacles too. So we have two Pentacles, we have a death card. There's a lot of major cards in this, and there's a few minors, but this spread that I did is mostly major cards anyway. So so yeah, the death card, of course, transformation, right? Death and rebirth. There are cycles that are meant to end. We have to let them go. I know I talk about this all the time. You probably hear other astrologers, other psychics, talking about this all the time, but we're not letting go in the ways at the level, at the capacity that we really need to. We're all still, all of us, holding on to outdated beliefs, outdated ways of being. And this is aspects in our family life, in our relationships, our friendships, with ourselves, our connections with ourselves. Protocol, cultural protocol, societal protocol as well too. So death card is, is major. And like knowing that we have like this deep feeling and intuitive ancestral connection right now, I think that's like really, really potent to know that they are supporting us in releasing, what doesn't serve so that we can call in this new level, this next chapter of more like, more progressive way of living where everyone's, you know, um, where life on earth is valued regardless of, your culture, that people will be, yeah, that like there's it's less disparate, right? Like less disparity between, different classes of people, and just having that, that balance or cohesion that we all feel so jarring, when it comes to seeing like who has the power and what they do with it, right? Like it's out of control. I think we can all agree on that. Um, but then the Eight of Pentacles, of course, indicates like the need for mastery and like to keep going and keep working. And it's not going to be like, a quick fix. Like I say this all the time that like those in power are not going to be just like giving it up out of the goodness of their hearts, if they even have hearts. It's like going to be people taking the power, right? So, beginning to have the conversations, beginning to organize, beginning to like dream about, what the future has in store for us. But then like knowing that it's not going to change in a day. Like this is like, going to be a 20-year cycle with Pluto and Aquarius. Like there's a lot of harm that needs to be healed. There's a lot of, harm that needs to be undone. So this isn't just going to be like one day or one month. It's like, yeah, this whole new era, of reparations, which is like, I don't know, I'm excited to be here during this time, but it's like the cards are going to keep it real. Like you're going to have to keep going, right? It is going to be decades of work to, undo. Well, like you think about like you read that like empires last like 250 years or whatever, right? So like it hasn't been that long, right? Like when did the transatlantic slave trade start? Like 500 years ago, 400 years ago, something like that. So we go, yeah, it's a long time. But like if no reparations have been made, like if we could like really, organize and work together consistently, like think about how much progress and healing could happen over 20 years. Like that's not that long. Like ratio wise or percentage wise, right? So I find this very firming because it's like, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult, but we're dedicated and we're going to keep going because we, respect other people, we respect animals, we respect the environment, right? Like we're all here on Mother Earth together. It's not just like people against all other living creatures and all other ways of life. Like that would just be so ludicrous. And of course, like people against each other, that that doesn't work either. They want us fighting amongst ourselves, so we don't see what's really going on. Okay, so there is, yeah, there is going to be a pretty tight trine, with the sun, at 24 degrees Libra and Jupiter at 21 degrees, Gemini. So Jupiter is only in harmonious, positive aspects, right? I already mentioned the sextile between the Aries moon and Chiron conjunction, over to Jupiter in Gemini. And then the other positive, conversation or positive interaction that Jupiter's having as a planet is to the sun in Libra. So Sun Jupiter conjunction is beautiful. It is lucky. It is an increase in vitality. So I love that for us, especially if we're like being called to like work harder and keep going. So that's pretty cool. But the card I have, specifically for the Sun trine Jupiter, it's an air trine, Gemini to Gemini to Libra. I have the Six of Pentacles, which is about reciprocity. So I love to see this as embracing those aspects within ourselves or seeing those aspects within ourselves where we do engage in more reciprocal behavior, right? Like we know that our actions impact others. One of my favorite, like, lessons from the pandemic, many lessons, of course, but yeah, just really receiving that confirmation, that affirmation that we are all connected, and like what I do is going to impact my neighbors, what I do is going to impact my family. What one community does impacts another community. So like it is all connected, and we know this. This is innate, but it's something that we in the last 200 years have moved away from, or like the toxic individualism and stuff. Every man for themselves, pull up your bootstraps. Like no one finds success without community support from their beloveds and their ancestors, their family of origin, chosen family, right? Like we all get where we're going um, through community support. And billionaires love to say they worked hard for it, but if you look at who they are, like they all have family support and family money, right? And and we should be supporting our children, right? Like if I had like, an African diamond mine or whatever, like of course I'm going to give my son the money to buy like Tesla or whatever, right? Like yeah, like nepotism, you want like I don't know. There's definitely different ways to look at it, right? Like, I don't know. I think it's okay when we do it. Like, we need to support each other, right? What can we learn from, yeah, the most like successful people? Is like you invest in your children, you invest in your friend's company or whatever. That's we have all this like government and political corruption because they're all just like investing in each other's stuff, right? And telling us that we have to do it on our own is like, but you didn't do it on your own. And like, why should we, right? There's definitely more of us than them. So I love this card of reciprocity, the Six of Pentacles. Um, yeah, when considering the trine between Jupiter and the Sun, and that amplification of aspects of our identity where we do want to yeah, help others out. Okay, let's continue here. Why do I look like this now? Going to adjust. This is so strange. Okay. Well, I'm almost done, so I'm just going to continue. Think that maybe I'll just try turning my workstation around here. We'll try that. Hey, beautiful, beautiful. That is better. Okay, the sun is just so close here. Okay, where were we? Um, yes. So I've got a couple more cards that I want to share, and then we'll be done. Thanks for hanging out with me for this. I have the High Priestess and the World. So asking for like an overall, like what cards can speak to the overall energy of this full moon, right? Or of this lunation. So like all things considered, right? Um, when I pull the High Priestess, I often think about her counterpart, the Hierophant, which is like the masculine version. In some decks, it's called like the Pope or the priest. So you have like the priestess and the priest. And the High Priestess is about, your intuition and your inner knowing. and like the feminine knowledge keeper, right? And then you have the masculine version, which is like, I'm going to go out and teach. And it's not like, men do this and women do that. It's not like in that sense, it's about like, our inner world, like the feminine, the inner world, and then the outer world, the masculine, like the sun and the moon, the unconscious and the conscious, right? So I always like to think about that relationship whenever I pull this card. So I think in this context, though, it does speak to trusting your intuition. That's always a good one when we get this, but I did pull it with the world as well, too, which is the final card um, of the major arcana. So this is number 21, which adds up to 3. So you have High Priestess 2, and then the world is 3. So it's like taking what you know is true, trusting your intuition, and bringing it out into the world. Now is the time to speak your truth, right? To engage in what we've talked about already, right? There's a big part about like, yeah, not just trusting your intuition, but having the courage to like be public with your visions as well too, I would say. And like just like on its own, this is like I wouldn't say similar to death, like because it's like cycles ending and beginning, but this is like you have completed the journey. So when I think about it with the high priestess, it's like you've completed the inner journey. You're good. You're good now to put yourself out there and share what it is that you've discovered from your visions, what you know from your like divine insight that you've received, that it's okay now, that it's safe to do that, because then more of us are going to connect, because we'll see like, oh, I'm not the only one who has that vision, for a better way of life, um, for a higher standard of living for all creatures, right? Like it's not just you. And we all have different roles to play as well too. Um, what making the world a better place looks like for one person, it's going to be completely different for other people. So it does you do have to consider like, what are my innate gifts, what are my interests and skills, and then like, what am I invited to come here to heal, what am I here to work on in this lifetime, where is my attention meant to be focused. So it doesn't like growth and evolution healing, that doesn't look the same for everyone. It's different for everyone too. So just like trusting that you can step into your destiny, and that you will have, the support from those who are, called to work towards a similar vision, even though you might have different roles. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope this was informative for you. For me, the full moon was extremely intense. And like I said, yeah, being in the red city with like all this like fire energy, it's been yeah, it's been a lot. So I'm gonna leave this there. I will see you in a few days for your rising sign horoscopes for Scorpio season. And yeah, and take care until then.